can start recording.
Okay, recording now then.
We're about to... Yep, here we go.
Okay.
And with that sting of music, that perfect Canadian piece of music, which it is. It's a nice little bit of on trivia. We begin another episode of Cinema Smackdown here on CJLO 1690, where we have the backbeat.
Yes, we have a
of some screechy indie rock band.
Thunderous musical session going on in the next room, which is adding additional soundtrack for the microphones, which may or may not pick up some of it. We'll see.
I'm Michael Brody. I am joined today by Shane Simmons, and we are expecting Tess McRae at any moment. She was on location in Mexico up until this morning. She's arriving from the airport in some kind of...
I hope she wasn't kidnapped by a cartel again. Maybe. I hope the coyotes got her across the border, okay?
I think at this point, with all the times this has happened, she's pretty much a verified coyote herself.
It could be.
That's how that
could
works.
be. But you get to listen to us stare at the door for an hour, waiting for her to show up. That'll be fun.
Or maybe this will be another week in which she misremembered what time the show actually starts. The good thing is she usually shows up an hour early when this happens, not an hour late.
Now, it depends if she was in a different time zone yesterday.
Oh dear.
She may not have adjusted.
The really fun part about today's show, as I understand it, is that we do not have a topic. We are a show in search of a topic today. Usually we like to go with Best Western ever made, or funniest performance by an actress who's never been in a comedy until now.
Funniest movie to feature an actual death of a celebrity on screen.
There you go.
Yeah.
I love The Wizard of Oz.
Well, there are a couple close calls there. Fair enough.
I'm referring to the legend of the hanging little person. I'll go with the politically correct.
Oh, okay. Well, that wasn't on screen, though.
Right, well, apparently
not,
that is on screen. The shadow of the hanging...
It's no Brandon Lee. Yeah.
Well, that's a good point. Let's make that the show.
If we want to go with horrible...
celebrity deaths.
Horrible behind-the-scenes suicides, my favorite is still Once Upon a Time in the West.
I'm not even aware of that one.
Oh, you're not? Okay, so one of the three guys who's waiting for the train at the beginning.
Isn't it like 5 guys?
No, it's 3. It's oh, God, I can't remember his name.
Horst...
No.
You're talking about the scene with Horst...
Wait, what am I... What did I...
You said Once Upon a Time in the West.
Yeah.
Isn't it like 5
no, it's 3
ugly
guys.
cowboys,
no,
including Scatman Crothers and...
It's not Scatman, it's, God,
Woody Strode.
Woody Strode, yes.
So racist.
Yeah.
All bald black men from the 60s are Scatman Crothers to me.
Especially if they're wearing a duster.
It's a good thing to walk in on.
Yeah, that's how it goes. Joining us from her recent cartel release is Tess McRae, on time as always,
Hello, everyone.
taking off her coat and her woolly hat.
You don't need to narrate everything I do.
I think I do.
She's now getting
format.
coffee.
New format.
She's brushing her teeth before we get on air.
if only. So,
oh, no, you interrupted my terrible suicide story.
Yeah, so there's
Oh my
the
gosh.
cowboys waiting for the train in Once Upon a Time in the West.
Right. So I can't remember who what the hell is his name? The big guy who plays with the fly. Oh, he's one of those.
The fellow with the crossed eyes.
Yes.
I thought it was Horst something.
No, that Horst Buckholz. If that's
That's
right.
who I was
No. He's very pretty, and he's from the Magnificent Seven.
All right, then, never mind.
Okay. But the third gruesome hitman waiting at the train for Charles Bronson to show up. That guy was nearly done with his footage. Not quite, though. And then he proceeded to jump out of his hotel room window and go splat on the pavement. To which Sergio Leone, who was directing the film, knowing that there was still some footage that needed to be done with this guy in this great, magnificent opening sequence, said, save the costume. Because he was in costume when he jumped.
Oh my God. What did I walk in on here?
Yeah. Well,
What a morning.
it's always morbid when you're not here. You're a ray of sunshine. If not for you, we just go into gallows humor.
We were discussing how we are a show in search of a theme today, and that perhaps our theme would be celebrity on-screen suicides.
Oh my
or
God.
something along those lines.
Veto.
Just a little joke, just a little humor to get us started on this lazy Sunday afternoon. when
Feels more like morning to me.
Me too.
So what have we run through so far?
All we have mentioned is a very recent current release, Once Upon a Time in the West.
Of course, that you were being so relevant.
And that you were being smuggled across the border.
I usually am.
So I guess we're going to talk a little bit about stuff we've seen lately and see if we find a theme. Mm-hmm. And I have over 20 movies I've seen recently. Shane has seen up to 1.
I have seen roundabout 0 new films lately because all I do is stare at boxes that I'm loading with thousands of books. Because I'm moving, so...
Oh, that's exciting, though.
Not really. No, it's heavy and backbreaking.
Okay, heavy and backbreaking. Is there a theme in there somewhere? Backbreaking labor, heaviness,
no,
emotional heaviness. It's all coming together.
As I was saying before we went on air, I do have a film-related story, though, because I had to go downtown yesterday. And I don't go downtown the way I used to, because originally I used to make my weekly trip either for comic books or new DVD releases. And
neither of which exist anymore.
Exactly. They've pretty much dried up. So there's no reason for me to run down all the time. So it's been a while since I've been down there. Apparently, since my last visit, St. Catherine Street has turned into a Cheech and Chong movie.
Oh yeah, well, the whole city of Montreal. Right?
Yeah, it's a 3-mile stretch of skunky weed.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
and lineups to get into the skunky weed store.
Mm-hmm. Either that or the Apple.
Selfie, to be fair.
Either the skunky weed store or the Apple store. It's one or the other. Those were where the crowds are most concentrated. But I did drop by Best Buy because it's been a while and I have not seen the latest in technology, and I'm a little behind. So I've been sitting on my 50-inch plasma TV for the last 15 years, and I'm wondering, do I need to upgrade?
You need that holographic projector.
Well, I specifically went to see the ultra high def sets, the 4Ks, and I had not seen them in action before. So I thought, okay, I'll go to a store, I'll see a proper demo, and of course all the demos they run they tend to be spectacular nature footage, or there was some nice footage of downtown. I think it was Hong Kong, and the image is true to form. It is ridiculously sharp to the point where I could walk up to the screen mere inches away, and I could not see pixels. It's a glassy, clear image. But my real question is, well, what does a real movie look like on this? Mm-hmm. And they were running another demo, a trailer in ultra high def for The Fate of the Furious. Yes, the Cars versus Submarine movie we were talking about yesterday.
For a real movie.
Well, exactly. Well, you go with what they're playing. So my experience looking at that was, okay, do I want to upgrade to this technology? And the answer is a big fat no for me. Because looking at a Hollywood movie in ultra high def, it's so clear, you really do feel like you're in the same room with The Rock or Jason Statham or any of those guys, and it's unnerving. It feels like you're on set. It does such a good job of placing you on set, it takes you right out of the movie.
Yeah.
I don't understand. Well, why wouldn't you want to be able to count the pores in The Rock's nose? Why is that an issue?
If that's your hobby, you can certainly do that.
I am baffled, confused, and frustrated by the fact that as technology advances, film grain disappears, tone, lighting seems to go out the window, and everybody seems to be content to watch things that look like nightly news footage, which is insane to me.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody. Just idiots.
People are buying this technology and letting it go, being fine with it. I've gone into people's houses, sat down with them, they switch their TV on, the footage is nigh unwatchably presented, and they are just, well, that's how I watch TV now.
Well, people,
I've just gotten
honestly,
used
I find
to
that
this.
people just don't notice it.
Mm-hmm.
Things that are, well, especially, TV sets that do the, the digital frame edition. The digital smoothing of things, which I find unwatchably awful.
Yep.
But people don't even realize that it's happening. And I'll be like, look at the screen right now. Does this look like a movie to you? This looks ridiculous. And people are like, oh, I don't notice anything. What do you mean?
Yeah, productions that are actually shot on film now look like they're shot on video.
Yeah, video. Like 1990s.
Well, if you're not aware of this, a couple of months ago, Christopher McQuarrie and Tom Cruise made a short video. It was an impassioned plea to all people who own high-def TVs to go into the settings and turn off
Digital smoothing or whatever.
Is it smoothing? It's some kind
Something like that. Yeah, well,
yeah.
A setting I would never opt for.
And the thing is,
I don't even use a TV. I use a projector.
But almost every single TV in the world now comes with that setting clicked.
Yeah, I know. It's
and
ridiculous.
It is not on a main
disgusting.
menu. It's in a deep menu. It requires internet searches.
There's nothing worse going on in the world right now than
I'm right up there with you.
Well, I do have if we wanted to get back to talking about the content rather than the delivery.
By the way, were you done?
No,
Yep.
I can continue to gross about it all day.
So a whole big lead up was cranky old man's.
Shouting at clouds. Yeah.
So it's back to the thrift
Look,
stores.
I'm sure there will be generations of kids coming up. If this becomes ubiquitous enough, they will just get used to, well, this is how film looks.
Yes, well, then again, they're watching them on their phone watches at this point, on a screen no bigger than a thumbnail.
Yeah.
There's nothing quite
Well,
like...
they're selling these gigantic 4K televisions to someone. And the price point for a fair number of them are quite reasonable compared to, when I was shopping for a plasma a million years ago.
Yeah.
I recall. So, Tess, what was your content that you want to inject into this episode?
I have I've seen a few movies in the past couple weeks or
and
whatever.
you and I haven't seen each other in
and
the
we
past
haven't
couple
seen each
weeks.
other in a while,
so it's time for you to tell
I
me
will let it rip.
what terrible movies you think are secretly good.
There's one movie that you hated that I loved, and all the rest of them I'm sure we agree are terrible.
I just don't know if we should do Oscar movies today or not, but I will. Let's touch on that movie because it can segue to a different movie that I think we both liked that's connectable in this year's. But remember, we're 1 minute away from going to commercial. So let's hear a quick pick.
Okay,
from Tess.
well, a quick pick, not a movie, actually a television series.
I thought you were going to say
Netflix
yet
series.
another television I'm thinking about buying. It's an all-tech episode.
It's an all,
So
it's an all complaining about tech episode.
Let's hear about your TV show. Let's see if it's the same TV show I want to push today.
I will quickly pitch that everybody go and watch. Well, I've only seen 2 episodes at this point, but I'm completely sold, and I think that everybody should go right away and watch the show Russian Doll on Netflix.
Oh, the worst show of the year. Okay,
I loved it. I love it.
Okay, here's my review of Russian Doll, and it's a weird one.
I've only seen 2 episodes, so don't spoil shit for me.
Here it is. 2 episodes in, I was ready to stop watching that show. I was so angry at its storytelling and its incredibly
we could not disagree more.
irritating
Should we go to a commercial and come back?
No, I'm good. I've got 40 seconds. I can just get this out. It's an interesting review. I was super irritated with the main character and was zero interested in following her journey.
Could not disagree more.
2 episodes in, I was just angry. I decided to start 3 just to decide, okay, I'm dismissing this. 3 has something so interesting that it carried me to episode 7,
well,
where I
actually
was
just
again.
finished episode 3.
Okay, well
so
that's the one.
Yeah.
That's the one. That moment is so interesting. It carried me all the way to episode 7, where again I saw nothing I enjoyed right up until the end of 7.
You're a real masochist.
And
Has
then
anyone ever told you that?
There's a wrap up in episode 8 that is so good. It almost made me happy. I watched 4.5 hours of television I didn't enjoy. It does have a fantastic ending.
Your rhetorical style is somewhat overblown, one might say.
I really had I had a real up and down experience with the show. But
it's the best thing in the world when it's not being the worst thing in the world.
I really did not enjoy the main character's performance or anything she had to say.
Natasha Lyonne on the show and the main character. And actually, really, the way the show is shot, I really enjoy. I don't know, I love everything about it. We can come back to it.
Alright, well, we got 60 seconds of paying the bills, and we'll be right back.
I love Russian Doll. I mean, I've only seen 3 episodes.
I just cannot stand. I'm high. Oh, what am I high on? Oh, everything is dumb. Oh.
I feel like
I'm fucking
you're
the wrong person.
This is what we call
scene
a
after scene
reductio
after
ad
scene.
absurdum. I believe is the
but yeah,
Latin phrase to describe what you're doing.
I was like, wow, I just have to know what this is now. And then I was so let down for 4 more episodes. I was just like, oh, I hate this show. I hate it. And then I saw an article that said, if you don't understand the ending of Russian Doll, we'll explain it here. And I'm like, I guess I'll watch the ending. And I watched the ending, I'm like, this couldn't be clearer or smarter.
I feel that way about every... here's the ending of this explained, the ending of that explained. It's like, none of these need explanation if you have more than 2 brain cells to rub together.
There's some out there. We got 5 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean,
Anyway, it's not the show I was going to talk
If
about.
you're watching a Denis Villeneuve film, you don't need to read an article because he'll explain
And
it to
we're
you for
back.
25 minutes in the movie.
Mid-argument from Tess.
I just never stop arguing, really.
So,
anytime you cut in, it's mid-argument with Tess.
that's very true. So to be clear, I really didn't enjoy Russian Doll, and yet, huge thumbs up, I recommend everyone watch it.
Well, I
Did
love
I enjoy
Russian Doll.
it?
I had the
No.
exact opposite reaction. I love the main character. I think she's, like, completely different, interesting character. I would hang out with her, for sure. Natasha Lyonne's performance, I love. Whoa, you put me on a buzzer?
No, I actually always preload the buzzer into our radio spots so we don't accidentally go into the next preloaded radio spot. And I did, in fact, forget to turn off the computer, so there we go.
Yeah, I mean, I love the whole environment of the show, the like, sort of, like, skeezy New York, whatever group of people that feels very authentic to me. And I like the way it's shot. I think the colors are gorgeous, and it's got this, like, weird mystery going through it I'm really enjoying it.
Well, we'll speak again when you've seen the rest of it, and I'm sure you'll be very happy with it, given how happy you already are with the parts that infuriate you. And I'm sure once it actually gets good, you'll be... Well, I'm gonna mention a movie which segues to a TV show. My TV pick of the week, or of the year, pretty much. So I saw a little movie last week called Then Came You, which stars Asa, I want to say Asa, but I have no idea how it's pronounced, Asa Butterfield?
I think it's Asa, but whatever.
Yeah, there you go. At any rate, he's a little British boy who's been in a million movies. He was Ender of Ender's Game and many, many pieces as a child actor, but he has turned into about a 20-year-old actor at this point. He's in a cute little cancer comedy with himself.
Those words you don't normally hear strung together.
Well, there's always someone who's dying movies. It's been a thing since before Love Story.
I don't know, we could probably do a whole show about cancer comedies.
Here we go. Our show, in search of a topic, has found its topic. Happy cancer.
50-50.
So,
that's the one I can think of.
See? Look how quickly we got there.
20 people? Was there cancer in that one?
Yep.
Yeah.
People?
Brain Candy with Cancer Boy.
Oh, good lord. We're really getting a little too good at this. Fight Club, arguably.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
That's
there you
true.
go.
It does have a cancer theme,
It's a whole lot of people who don't have cancer pretending they have cancer. That's really upsetting. And a wonderful Meryl Streep's corpse lookalike.
What?
Oh, it's not Meryl Streep in the movie. The lady who they say she looks like so-and-so if her dead body got up and walked around?
Oh, yeah, no, it's Meryl Streep.
Oh,
yeah.
Because in the book and in the movie they say a different celebrity.
No, it's the same one. It's slightly different in the book. It says if you took Meryl Streep's skeleton and dipped it in wax the book. Yeah.
Let's get specific. So, Then Came You is a little comedy drama with Asa Butterfield and Maisie Williams, which is interesting because I thought it was anybody but her, because her face was very familiar. I was like, wow, that girl looks a lot like Maisie Williams. But clearly that's not. I guess she's just aged out enough that she's gone through a few changes. At any rate, it's a cute little romantic comedy. There's nothing particularly special about it. It's fine to watch. But it was a really good film to watch right after having seen the entire 8 episodes of the Netflix TV show Sex Education, which is the best show
I could have guessed you would be
I have
recommending
seen
this show.
in 2 years. Well, let's put it this way. My other favorite TV show of the last 12 months was Killing Eve. And this is comparable, although not on the same level. This is a show that has frank sexual discussion, full frontal nudity from both sexes in most cases. And while you're watching the show...
is this your checklist of things
No,
you need
it's
in a
just
TV show?
extremely well done. The drama on this show is so well written that 3 episodes in, I was completely involved with these characters. Again, this is Sex Education, the television show that's currently on Netflix. And the female lead, whose name totally escapes me, she's new, she's never done anything before, providing she rides the wave of how she's presented in this show into a TV or film career, she is the next big star. She is compelling and fierce and brilliant in it. I was immediately in love with her as a performer. So that, plus the fact that this show is so well written. By the way, I think completely written, completely directed by women. And is, for a large part of it, told in the voice of a young man, and extremely well handled. It also stars Gillian Anderson.
Yeah, I know. I haven't watched the show yet, but I do know that Gillian Anderson is in it, so I probably will watch it at some point.
The thing I will say to everybody who's ever going to embark on this show, give it a shot, is while watching the first episode, you will undeniably say, oh, parts of this are good, but all you'll be able to see is where it is surely going to go wrong during 8 hours, where you're like, oh, I can see what the formula will be, I know how these characters are going to fall in love or not fall in love, etc., etc. You are wrong. I was so wrong watching that pilot, because I was ready to dismiss the show as, oh, it's just going to end up being cute, it's going to be this, it's going to be that. It so surpasses what I expect in an 8-hour arc that I can't recommend it highly enough. It was already renewed for another season to... I know about 8 people who have seen the show. We're all overjoyed that it's coming back. That's like the highest recommendation I can make for anything. Is Sex Education is a better movie, or let's say 3 movies, than almost anything I've seen this year. Just in terms of writing, character stuff, and drama. And like a lot of things, there's always an interesting moment near the last moment of a show, how they let you go when it's a TV series. Like, oh, we're going to go out on this little moment. The last little moment is just not a plot point, but it is delightful.
All right.
So this last little aw, is that how we're going to go out this year?
Unless it's a freeze frame roll credits, I'm not interested.
Well, they're jumping into the air with their arms raised.
It's a jump in the air freeze frame. Yeah.
We saved the music program. All right, so that's my first movie I've talked about in the 22 minutes we've been on.
Not a movie.
Was it? Yeah.
I did. I mentioned a movie. It was called And Then Came You.
Oh,
okay,
because
fine.
that was the good, kind of an antidote to having watched a
So we're still technically a movie show, people.
Even though we've segued into tech.
Well, I'm sure other
shows.
people have already, or I'm sure you guys discussed this without me while I was away, or at some other point. But I did, because I'm a little bit slow to bandwagon onto this one, but I did recently watch the movie Bird Box.
Oh, yeah.
Which really felt to me like an M. Night Shyamalan return to form. And when I say return to form, I mean the movie...
You mean full-on Happening.
The Happening.
Full-on Happening form.
It's just like the way that dialogue is written and delivered in this movie was astounding to me. I couldn't understand what decisions were being made at any point during the performances of
the film does open with Sandra Bullock barking orders at 2 children.
Everything she does is like
the least believable cadence I've ever heard.
That's what I'm saying. Every piece of dialogue is so weird and stilted in this movie. I was like just eternally confused through the entire film. I was like, is this a practical joke?
I actually thought that opening sequence was her overacting on purpose because they were playing a children's game that wasn't real.
Right. That's what it felt like. It's so overdone that you're confused about what's actually... This is what was happening in the movie. I was continually confused about what was actually happening in the movie because it was so stilted and overdone that I was like, is this some kind of commentary that I'm not understanding, or is there some framing device that I'm missing? Because why is everyone acting like this?
The only person I enjoyed in that movie was John Malkovich, who turns his own performance up to 25. It's a dial of 10. He turns it up to 25.
I also enjoy John Malkovich a lot, but that's because when John Malkovich is on screen, you're like, oh, I understand it actually is a satire.
His performance is hilarious.
I know. But it doesn't feel like anybody else is in on that joke, you know?
So John Malkovich turned up to 25 is about a Christopher Walken turned up to 3?
That's the conversion rate.
Okay, alright.
Yeah.
When John Malkovich enters Chris Farley territory.
Oh, yeah.
That's when you just kind of turn your head to the side while looking at the screen and say, is this working for me? I think it is.
So, I haven't seen the film, so you're saying John Malkovich plays a fat ninja?
Yes.
Who lives in a
van down by the river.
Oh, okay, cool. I am sold. I didn't want to see that overhyped movie, but now I do.
Pretty much every single thing in this film is the very definition of Razzie Award.
Yeah, I was to be honest, I kind of super enjoyed watching it because because I kind of watched it because it's been so whatever hyped, and you kind of have to watch it at a certain point if you do a radio show about movies. And I was expecting it to just be mediocrely bad, like the one that it's compared to now, The Quiet Place or whatever, which is just kind of not good movie.
Which is lauded, by the way. When you just throw out Quiet Place, not a good movie.
Okay, we've discussed The Quiet Place a lot.
Most people love it.
Yeah.
You and I are smart.
Yeah. But yeah, I was expecting it to be something like that, kind of blah. Like, just so many movies these days where I just get so bored sitting there watching them. But it was exquisitely ridiculous. It makes no sense. The plot is completely nonsensical. Every performance is bizarre. It was really very enjoyable.
And much like The Quiet Place, when they give you the ultimate revelations about how things are going to work, the last surprise ending is, oh, these people are immune. Yeah, of course they are.
No kidding.
How would I not have known that? How is this in any way a shocking moment when they open the door and you see the thing? It's like, well, of course that thing exists.
Yeah, really? Like, yeah, definitely. I mean, I was watching it with someone, and the person was kind of like, early in the movie was like, I guess I don't want to reveal the thing, but at some point in the movie they were like, wouldn't it just mean that people who are like this would be fine? And I was like, yeah, I guess so. Cut to the end of the movie.
Yeah, much like The Quiet Place, the same premise of, oh no, everyone's dead because of this thing. And I'm like, well, why don't they just try this? Okay, let's just wait. 2 hours later, I think we should try this. What? You live in this environment and that didn't occur to you?
For years
I'm just
and
sitting
years.
here looking at it, and my first thought, out of the gate, is let's just give this little concept a shot.
And then, I mean, I don't want to spoil because, Shane hasn't seen it or anything, but there's just so many pieces that are so wrong-headed. I'm referring to so there's like sort of
both
three
movies.
Yes, but I'm afraid. So if in Bird Box you can kind of divide people's responses to the thing into 3 categories: the ones you meet at the end, the sort of normal people, and the crazy people. Let's say, as the movie sort of puts it, and just that whole. Anyway, I'm finding it hard to say without spoiling too much about it, but.
Well, I just read a review of it on Facebook only today, where a friend of mine, Oscar winner, said, "Oh, I just saw Bird Box finally," and his review was, "What the hell was that?"
Honestly, that's not poignant. I would have preferred him to use words that were more.
Well, I was wondering, it's like, because I've worked with this guy before, so he understands narrative, so. What he was saying, he said a few more things about it, but essentially it was like, I don't get it.
Well, I mean, I think that there's nothing really to get. This movie is basically a viral marketing scheme that has somehow become
that's what it stinks of to me, having, still being one of the few people left who hasn't seen it. It just seems like a marketing trick.
Yeah. I mean, it was but the thing is, that's what I was kind of expecting, and I was expecting it to be very bland, mediocre. It was delightfully bad. It was delightfully bad and wrong-headed.
Her performance is D-movie cheese.
It's her performance is D-movie. Actually, kind of all the performances are.
But hers in particular, she's a robot in this movie.
Yeah.
So this time she's not a Southern belle giving people wet fur?
No.
She's a screamy, robotic...
And say what you will about the film being about an unbelievable supernatural occurrence, the least believable thing in this movie is that Sandra Bullock is pregnant. Isn't she 75?
She is not.
She's pregnant with her 8th adopted baby.
Just so you know, she is very nearly 60.
Yeah, I know she's nearly 60. It's not the same thing as 75,
maybe she
Michael.
shouldn't
Calm down.
be playing... They don't even mention
in Hollywood, fertility is forever.
They don't even mention it in that sense of, okay, let's pretend I'm in my mid-40s, and this is a really late pregnancy. They don't even go there. They're like, of course she's clearly fertile, and what now?
Yeah, and there's like sort of I just feel like I want to talk so much about how terrible this movie is. I can't just mention all the particulars of it, but there's like sort of I guess what the movie thinks is a twist. I'm talking about the 2 children, how there are 2 children, and the movie kind of... I liked
how hard she worked on naming them.
Yeah. The movie is, I guess, trying to make some kind of a mystery or twist out of the provenance of these children, but it's just so very, very obvious that you're watching the movie and you're like, who thought that there was any tension in this movie?
Well, apparently Eric, I want to say Heiserer, I don't know how to pronounce his name. He's the screenwriter of Arrival. Is that the movie with Amy Adams and Jeremy Renner?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So many movies called Arrival that I get the title titles mixed up.
Well, I'm a fan of the David Toohey one, so.
But it is worth mentioning that Arrival was shot in Montreal, and that means Eric Heisserer was around, and he calls in a lot, so he's a big fan of CJLO's 1690s Cinema Smackdown. We have a lot of spirited discussions with him. I mean, he's on hold now, but I don't really think it's right to put him in on this episode where we're kind of criticizing his work. So.
Nah, keep him on hold. The music's really compelling.
There you go. Well, what we did was, for our music, we took the screeching noises from Arrival and turned those into songs. So
isn't it our 3-note film, our opening song played over and over and over again?
Oh, that sounds awesome. Yeah. That's our Canadian content 3-note song that we were discussing
Good work.
earlier.
I hope you marked that on the sheet that we put some Canadian content.
Don't mark that it is Canadian content, should I be?
Yeah, of course.
Should I be listing that? So that
we get brownie points from the CRTC if we do that.
So that the people get their proper royalty check?
Yes, exactly.
if we do 52 episodes this year and we play their...
We also don't want jackbooted government thugs kicking in our door and kicking us off the air for not having enough CanCon.
Exactly.
I'm all for it.
Because, one of the three of us is an American. A filthy American.
I'm both. Okay.
You're both filthy and clean.
I'm sorry. You can only be one or the other.
Choose the passport you want to keep and burn the other one in front of us.
Okay. This will work really well for radio.
All right.
So is that all we have to say about Bird Box?
Oh, that's enough.
I have more to say, but I don't want to. Yeah, I don't want to spoil and stuff. I do think that it's delightfully bad. It was way worse than I was expecting, and that's a compliment. That's a high compliment.
I say this
on a Shyamalan scale. Is it happening or?
It's basically the happening.
It's happening with a point, whereas I find the happening doesn't have a point.
I don't think it has a point. Where did you see a point in this movie?
It kind of goes somewhere.
I mean, I guess geographically it goes.
You're right in that it barely has a point. So it's slightly ahead of the happening.
So it's a step below the happening. So we're down near After Earth / The Visit territory.
Oh, it's better than those two.
Okay.
Well, better. I mean, it's more entertaining than those two.
Yes, yeah. I find both those movies nigh unwatchable.
Yeah.
So. I'd say Bird Box is watchable. It's just not.
I quite enjoyed watching it, to be honest. To be fair,
it's a little rough.
I said, I was smoking weed, so.
The Malkovich portions made it more tolerable.
I want to see Malkovich, and I want to see Sandra Bullock driving a bus really fast, blindfolded.
Close.
Wow, I kind of like
that
get. Concept. Yeah. I think
that's very close to what you'll get.
I can't think of a clever phrase that brings speed and Bird Box into a speed box, bird. I don't know. There's got to be something clever in there, but I would watch that movie.
Roadrunner box.
That's the dirtiest thing you've ever said. All right, let's talk about some other stuff we've seen or cared about.
I recently watched a movie that I had not seen yet, despite that it came out a little while ago. The Incredibles 2. My entire review. Aggressively mediocre.
Yeah, that was Shane and I.
Did it give you epilepsy like it did some people?
Did it give people epilepsy?
Yeah. There was warning.
But in the cinema, when the strobing effects happened, they were really rough.
Yeah, there were warnings on some box offices saying maybe you better check if your kids are epileptic.
I feel like Shane's review of the movie was the best review I've seen anywhere. He said that felt more like Incredibles 5 than Incredibles 2.
100%.
As if they had made 3 or 4 pretty great ones, and this was the first one where they're like,
it's starting to get lazy.
We keep making money, so I guess we have to pump one more out?
Well, the thing to me that was weird about the movie is that there's this kind of half-assed attempt at making some kind of commentary with the villain being the screen slaver, and everybody's enslaved to their screens, and it was just so half-assed, and there was just
both heavy-handed
and mean, sort of nothing. Mm-hmm. I was just like, why just have it be generic villain XXO? Also, another film where it was so exceedingly obvious what the twist was going to be from the first moment of the film.
You mean how the female villain's name was Woman Bad Guy or something like that? Her name is literally a villain something name.
Right, yeah.
It's upsettingly poor.
It's really, I mean, it was just like, I know it's a kid's movie to a certain extent, but Incredibles, the original Incredibles, was actually a film that I loved when it came out. I thought it was a really well done superhero movie. So yeah, it was very, very mediocre and very, very telegraphed in terms of the entire plot from beginning to end.
It's a little rough,
Yeah.
And they try so hard to make the baby so cute, and the
Oh
more
my
they
God.
do that, the angrier I got at the film.
Just
I don't know. It's best raccoon fight I've ever seen.
Yep. Yep.
Oh, that bit with the raccoon fight reminded me of like in some of these like 90s comedies, when you go back and watch them now, they have these weird interludes of just like random slapstick comedy for like 20 minutes, and you're like, this has nothing to do with anything. It's just kind of a guy falling down a hill for 23 minutes, or like you just randomly cut to two guys fighting in the lunchroom or something. You know what I'm talking about. Where there's these kind of like strange interludes of like completely unimportant narratively unimportant slapstick moments, and that whole raccoon thing was that.
Yeah, which are sometimes the only memorable thing in a film, like this one.
Did you just reference Hot Rod?
Maybe.
The falling down the hill thing? I was like, that sounds like a real film. Oh wait, there is a film with a 20-minute interlude, basically, of a guy falling down a hill.
Yes, this is what I'm talking about. But there was like in that era of comedy movies, there was that thing where you just cut away for this slapstick 20-minute whatever.
It is worth mentioning that Hot Rod was made about 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah, it's not that old, but yeah.
It is a throwback film. But at any rate, it's the same.
Unless you're also remembering that Simpsons episode.
Yeah, aggressive to my review would be aggressively mediocre as well.
Yeah.
And no one I know has seen this movie and said it was good, but almost every review in existence says it's a masterpiece.
Well, they're all being paid by Disney.
Yeah, there is this terrible disconnect that's happening between the mainstream critics and the actual fans, and it's illustrated on Rotten Tomatoes over and over again.
But here's the question. Are the reviews actually that positive, or is it Rotten Tomatoes that's ruining film criticism because it flattens everything into a positive or negative review?
Yeah, that's another issue, where you read some of these supposedly positive reviews, and it's like, it's not that positive.
Right.
I just think that you guys and everybody should do what I do. Completely disregard Rotten Tomatoes. I don't look at it.
Oh, I disregard it. I watch it as a phenomenon.
I also don't reference it. When it comes up in conversation, I tell people, well, I don't care about that.
Well, I will speak about what I want to speak about.
I am merely suggesting that as you go forward in life, you take on all of my philosophies. That is what I'm talking about. I'm not trying to silence you.
I'm interested in the phenomenon of Rotten Tomatoes saying there's a critical approval of certain things that are like 70-80%, and meanwhile the fan reaction is down at the 40 to 30%.
Again, I just outright reject Rotten Tomatoes. Whenever I hear it referenced, I just ignore it, dismiss it. It doesn't matter to me that part of the culture seems to believe in it for some reason. What annoys me is when I run into people on the street and we're talking about some film, they go, I read the Rotten Tomatoes said this. And I'm like, but that's not relevant to your opinion of something or anything else.
Look, Rotten Tomatoes is just a symptom of something that's been going on for a while, which is this disconnect between critics and actual moviegoers, in that there's an element of payola when it comes to the critics, that they will be buttered up, they will be given the special screenings and a bit of the merch, and they'll be wined and dined in certain situations, and this reflects on their opinion of a film. It's like, yeah, you showed me good time, and it's just a natural tendency to look more kindly at some of the films after they've been buttered up sufficiently. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, the rest of us, the poor plebeians, we go to the box office, we pay our overpriced price ticket, we buy slop at the concession stands, we sit in an uncomfortable chair next to a jackass who's talking for the whole movie, and a bunch of cell phones lit up in front of us, and we have a miserable time, and that reflects on our opinion as well.
And then for some reason we keep seeing movies and having a radio show about it.
Well,
we're masochists.
I mean, the fortunate thing is that for the most part I don't have to go to a cinema anymore.
And the funny thing is I still prefer watching that to bloody 4K, yeah, exactly. You are in the room with the actors. Ugh, creepy.
Yeah, but the cinema projections are getting to be that flat looking as well. I've been saying that for years.
I will say, going back to the 4K, I didn't find it flat looking. In fact, I caught an image of one out of the corner of my eye, and for a moment there I thought it was 3D. It was so friggin' clear.
Well,
it's unnerving.
When I'm in a cinema and I'm watching digital projection, and what keeps distracting me from actually getting engaged with the movie is all the digital artifacting. I really miss film projection. That's I mean, and not to mention depth and color and everything else that is just absent. I feel that everything is just crushed down into a flat surface now, more than it ever was before. There's no depth of field in these images.
This week on Grouchy Curmudgeons talk about things they hate.
Look, I think we went wrong when they changed the aspect ratio from the silent film aspect ratio that's actually narrower than the ultimate 4:3 that they went with.
You've lost even me. You've lost even me with your fast talk.
Now, I really did enjoy the kinetoscope, though. That was a wonderful, fun invention. And after that, it's like, they started wanting to projecting this stuff, and they ruined it all.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't hear you over the scratching needle of my wind-up phonograph.
I like my animated thousands of photographs of an elephant walking that I could just crank by hand.
Oh, I really prefer horse running.
Oh, the horse running, yeah, that was a pretty good one too.
I like the hand-tinted spaceship hits the side of the moon. That's my favorite.
Oh, you're jumping way far.
No,
ahead.
you're
jumping way far ahead.
You're up to Méliès. It was all over by Méliès. Come on.
Oh no! Let's go back to talking about actual movies. Let's talk a little bit about my favorite topic. Tess will argue with me. She hates talking about this. Lesbian content in film. And I saw 2 movies this year in 2018 I loved, or at least liked a lot, and one I despised.
You watched 2 lesbian movies that you loved? Is this not? How is this the first time I'm hearing of this?
I'm telling you now.
All right, let's talk about it.
Now. Like I said, 2. They have content. It doesn't mean they're.
Oh.
And a third one that everyone's talking about that I think is garbage that Tess thinks is amazing.
That I loved.
So, the 2 that I actually liked, though, is I was shock after shock, to realize about 25 minutes into watching Colette that I was really enjoying it.
Oh, we can fight about this, I guess.
You didn't like Colette?
I liked it.
Okay.
I liked it.
I just expected to watch 20 minutes of it, dismiss it, and turn it off. Whereas I was really engaged by it.
I super, super liked it, but mainly because there is lesbian content in it. I didn't really like it that much as an actual movie.
I liked it as a dramatic retelling, like clearly overly fictionalized retelling of how somebody's was suppressed and forced to do things. And I was really happy with the fact that even though it's an entire movie about a husband doing terrible things to his wife, he was still interesting. He was
probably
at him for the
one of the
whole
more
movie.
interesting characters. I just felt like the pacing of the film was very odd. It was like breakneck pacing.
Yeah.
I felt like every shot was too short, basically.
I had expected to really be bored, disinterested by Colette, and I found myself caught up in her biography.
Yeah, I mean, Keira Knightley in late 1800s menswear. I'm all for that.
I don't like Keira Knightley much, so you kind of had to overcome that for me. But anyway, that was a great film on that level of I'm actually enjoying this. Thank goodness. I don't feel that need to reach for the remote and forward a few scenes. It was pretty engaging.
No, I enjoyed it quite a lot as well, and I really liked the Marquise character, and that whole relationship was good for me.
There's a lot of little touches, and just constantly saying, when is she going to get her due throughout the entire movie, and seeing the reality of how far down the rabbit hole it went before she ever got any acknowledgement is amazing.
Yeah.
Then the other one that I really liked was Can You Ever Forgive Me, the Melissa McCarthy, Richard E. Grant movie.
I have not seen it yet. It's on my list, so don't spoil anything.
I mean, the double suicide at the end is a bit of a shock. No, it's a delightful film, although the lesbian/gay content is minimal. It's still who these characters are.
It's still content.
Exactly, but it's a great piece. I am most in love with this movie when it is just these 2 actors getting hammered and not moving the story forward at all. Those are the moments where I want to give them Oscars. When the actual plot kicks in, I lose about 80% of my interest in the film. But it's still good. It's still a really good movie with a compelling concept, and the performances are fantastic. And that's what they're being lauded for. They've both been given Oscar noms. I think they're the only 2 people who've been given Oscar nominations I have even the slightest appreciation for.
Okay, so are you going to wade in? Are you going to wade in on our next one that we disagree on?
Why don't we do that after we come back from, as I like to call it, paying the bills, which I will get to as soon as I can reach the control button. Here we go. I mean, I don't want to wade too deep.
Yeah,
Oscars,
we should do an Oscar episode. I could just quickly buzz over and say, but
let's just say why you liked it.
Yeah.
And then I'll undercut you.
Yeah. And then you'll just cut my mic off.
I rarely do it, but maybe today. seconds. These are all short ad breaks. But yeah, Can You Ever Forgive Me? It's good.
Yeah, it's on my list.
It's a quietly engaging movie. It's not gonna wow you in the first 10 minutes, but it is. Their relationship's great. That's some bonus content for your listeners. All right, you ready? Here we go. And we are back yet again. It just never ends.
The next movie that Michael and I disagree strongly on in every possible way was a movie that I loved. I've actually seen it 3 times now.
Oh, dear God. Kill me before I have to watch 10 minutes of it again.
And it's The Favorite, which is the Yorgos Lanthimos film. And I am a sometime fan of Yorgos Lanthimos. I love The Lobster. I like Dogtooth. I hated the other one. The deer one, Killing of a Sacred Deer. Hated it. So I came into it with mixed feelings or mixed thoughts on it.
I don't know. I feel like you could take scenes out of Killing of a Sacred Deer, slip them into The Lobster, and not know it was a different movie.
Well,
so
sure.
loving
Tonally,
one and
it's kind
hating
of,
another, I'm a little lost. But all right.
Well, that's a conversation for a different time.
I mean, the part where the deer turns into a lobster seemed really clear to me. That was. You were in the same
well, we could talk about The Lobster and Killing of a Sacred Deer at length on a different episode.
I think we have.
Have we?
I think we must have.
Probably
We've certainly done The Lobster.
Yeah. But The Favorite, yep, I was expecting, I came in without much expectation that it would be a period piece and that there might be some homoerotic subtext. It is not subtext. There is very explicit homoerotic content, which I enjoyed a lot. Other than that, it's highly stylized and very kind of absurdist, surreal tone to the film, which I really, really enjoyed. The way it was shot and this ridiculous wide-angle fisheye lens, which kind of distorts all the frames in the film, I thought was really very effective. And I really enjoyed all of the performances. Emma Stone, I would say, was like slightly less than
any good
than Rachel Weisz and Olivia Colman, who I loved both of them. But it went in directions that I wasn't expecting overall for the story, for the narrative. And I absolutely love the duck racing, and that's pretty much what I have to say before we go in. If we're going to talk about this on another episode, I don't want to get too far into it.
I watched it and I thought, it's a costume drama. It's one of those, and it's a dull one. That's it. That's my review of it.
Strong disagree.
It was dull for me.
I thought it was gorgeously shot. The performances were amazing.
It's pretty boring.
Well, to you.
It's a pretty boring film.
Strong disagree.
Despite the very
seeing as how I've seen it 3 times, I clearly disagree strongly.
Scenes, I still found it dull. Look, it's not a bad movie. My review of the movie is, it's one of those.
Strong disagree. It's actually very different from what I was expecting. I was coming in expecting like a standard period piece, and it's not really one at all. Actually, it's very. It's actually like aesthetics wise, it's actually pretty modern in the way that it's shot, in the way that it's staged.
They lost me when the movie opened on a highway and everyone started singing, and now they're going to give her another Oscar for it. I hate those moments.
It was a poorly lit highway in LA, and I mean, Emma Stone's not the main character of the movie, I would say. She's sort of like the third.
I felt like there was only her and her journey, and everybody else didn't
matter. Did you actually watch this movie?
Yes, I did. Did not care for it. But anyway, it's fine.
Anyway, I have plenty more to say on it, but I'll save it for our Oscar episode if we're going to do one.
Sure. Well, I'm sure we will. It's just a little early in the year to jump on those. But as we've been saying for weeks and weeks on this show, this was the lowest crop of films of any year I've ever lived through.
Well, I think that's a bold statement, but it is a dispiriting sort of field.
The fact that the Oscar nominations for this year are what they are, that these 6 or 8 movies, and I've looked through the list repeatedly, just looking for something that didn't either bore or offend me, and I've come up wanting. As I said, there's Can You Ever Forgive Me? At least I liked. It's at least I liked it.
Mind you, we did do 4 shows in a row about movies we liked better than all that stuff.
Yes, we did 4 episodes of overlooked movies of 2018, which were all small films that we enjoyed, But every year has small films I enjoy. I just always hope there's going to be something bigger, something a little bit more all-time best list. This year was, admittedly, those 4 shows, we covered a lot of stuff I liked a lot. Some I was very happy with, but just the lack of major movies this year was staggering.
Yeah, well, if you pin your hopes on Hollywood mainstream to come up with the good stuff, you're going to be disappointed every single year, which is what I keep telling people, and I have told them for years. Like, look deeper. There's interesting stuff out there, but you got to scratch the surface. You got to look at some foreign films. You got to look at the indie stuff.
Yeah, or you got to let Lord and Miller finish the movies they started.
That would be a good plan too.
Those seem to turn out quite well. Those ones that they get kicked off of 3/4 of the way through that don't seem to quite make any sense. In the process.
Get reshot completely.
Well, they added Paul Bettany. That made it all better. The adding of Paul Bettany makes everything better. Didn't you know? That's why that tennis movie with him and Kirsten Dunst is the talk of the town. I don't even remember what that's called. Do you?
No.
I don't know, but a tumbleweed just rolled through the studio.
We've lost our last remaining listener.
So,
bye.
Have you watched anything else of note, Tess? I do have a massive list of things, but I didn't want to just be the only person talking about stuff I've seen.
I've seen a few other things. What do you want to talk about?
I mean,
you could give us a list, and we can make fun of you about how you waste your time watching.
Yeah, seriously.
Oh, the list is far longer than this. I just only brought the ones that I have things to talk about in them. All right, I'll quickly mention 1 or 2 things that I think are of note. I think I may have mentioned this to both of you at some point, but a highlight of this year's controversial film releases, just things that made people upset for various reasons, was a little movie called Life Itself, which has Oscar Isaac and a few other...
This is
it Keira Knightley again?
No, not Keira Knightley.
No, it's Olivia Wilde.
Yeah.
Sorry, I forget which giant-eyed skinny girl is in which
that's
movie.
very fair. It's the what's-his-face film.
It's a Dan Fogelman?
Is it Fogelman?
There's a Dan Fogler and a Dan Fogelman. I forget which is which. One of them is a chubby character actor, and one of them is a writer-director. This is the writer-director, and he made a little movie called Life Itself, which is a vignette film. There's about 4 to 6 stories that are told. And it's very well made, it's very well acted, it's extremely well shot, edited, etc. But it is built on a concept so flawed that it infuriated audiences pretty much by and large. Everybody who has seen this movie hated it. And you have to sit through it to understand what a colossal error the director or writer made in saying, well, of course the audience will follow me on this part of the journey, at which point he loses everyone except people he's seen the movie. This is the thing. The director did a lot of screenings of this movie before releasing it, where people really praised it to his face. But once it got out into the world, the critical reviews were abysmal because people leave this movie angry. Because this movie mixes whimsy with sudden death on screen.
I mean, is this a Book of Henry type situation?
I was getting to that. This is part of what I call a trilogy of movies that have been made in the last 2 years where the director has the highest aspirations imaginable for making this a massive classic film that will touch people and become part of the, let's say, the It's a Wonderful Life pantheon of movies that made us care. And this trilogy includes Life Itself, Book of Henry, and Collateral Beauty. All 3 of these films are... They're necessary viewing.
I have to say the title Collateral Beauty makes me want to vomit.
Collateral Beauty may be the best, meaning worst, of the 3. And let's be clear.
Okay, but wait.
Book of Henry is like
I
a
avoided
hate
Life
crime
Itself
of a movie.
because it looked like what you're describing.
It looks insipid.
It looks insipid.
It's not
yes.
insipid.
Okay, but my question is it Book of Henry levels of entertaining?
Yes.
Really?
Well, mostly, look, for myself, the Book of Henry level of entertaining is the realization that the director thinks this particular moment in the film is working for people.
I know how to enjoy a terrible movie.
And
Michael.
have you seen Collateral Beauty?
No, I haven't.
Collateral Beauty is such a flawed, massively flawed concept that you will your mouth will drop open 20 minutes into it, and you will be unable to close it again until the closing credits, because they keep telling you the concept is working despite you shaking your head that it is not. I love films like this, where you're simultaneously completely engaged and angry at the film the whole time. But the director of Life itself basically got into whatever his version of a Twitter war was this year, because when people started negatively reviewing the movie, he started arguing with them that they were wrong.
Oh boy.
Which is amazing.
That's always the best way to convince people on Twitter.
But yeah, I can't recommend this. This is a
that
triple
sounds like
feature.
someone who needs to hire a publicist just to say no.
This is a triple feature if ever there's been one. Life Itself, Collateral Beauty, and Book of Henry.
And once you finish watching all those 3 movies, you'll forget how to human.
You know, all 3 of these movies involve really hardcore death and or suicide in a way that is incredibly uncomfortable.
Yeah,
They all.
I mean, that's what we
element.
go to the cinema for, right?
Yeah, they all have that.
Well, they're not important films without that element.
They all deal with. Here's the thing: they are all films that fundamentally deal with loss. And the dealing with loss is so mishandled 3 times in a row that you will be angry at these films. You will say, "How dare you try to tell me how to feel, movie?" They are wonderful films in that respect. It's like a new genre of, this is how human beings feel, right? And the audience just constantly shakes, no, what are you doing? Don't try to tell us a story this way. So yeah, that's my little push for all of those films.
All right, that sounds like a triple feature I can get behind. Should we do it this afternoon?
I will rewatch any of these movies anytime with anybody who's willing to go through that journey, as long as they go in eyes wide open, that they know what they're in for. One more thing from you, Tess, before we go out. We got a minute.
I watched the movie A Cure for Wellness.
I actually really like that movie, but
really
with huge warning signs over it.
I think it's Gore Verbinski, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And Dane DeHaan.
Yes, Dane DeHaan. Don't we love him?
The mark of quality.
Cinema Smackdown's favorite actor, Dane DeHaan.
You got 30 seconds to get your point across before we have to say goodbye.
Visually great. I love all the visuals. They're all super striking and interesting. It's a Gore Verbinski film. The movie is lunacy. Absolute lunacy.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And when a movie barely works and its tone is hard to take, make sure it's 2.5 hours.
2.5 hours. I think it's more. I think it's like 2 hours and 45 minutes, first of all. Secondly, Dane DeHaan, who gives him who keeps giving him jobs?
Yeah,
who keeps hiring him to be an actor? It makes no sense. He has no charisma whatsoever. And the twist of...
Oh, we gotta go now.
Okay.
This is
well,
the
let me
goodbye
just
part.
say the reveal of what's happening in the film is the worst thing I've ever experienced in my life.
Keep ranting for the whole week, and we'll pick up where you left off.
We'll just cut back. I'll just keep talking into this
All right.
mic. You guys just cut me off, and we'll cut back in next week.
I've enjoyed the last 60 minutes greatly. I am Michael Brody. I have been joined by Shane Simmons and Tess McCrae. Our little show has been called Cinema Smackdown, and we leave you here to the gentle hands of the auto robot that will see you into the next.
It will woo you into
a state of generous comfort as we go to the round
Okay,
of
just
the hour
cut it off,
news.
Michael.
There we go. There we go. Thanks a lot. I think everything is where it should be. I don't know if we'll be able to get the episode because the archive was open before when I was
to regulate Airbnbs in the borough. Ensemble Montreal leader Lino Perez and independent Marvin Rotrand will present their motion during the next borough
Yeah, we got through like 3
meeting.
of the 20 movies.
Airbnbs are not as prevalent in the borough as they are in
But that
Toronto or
was no joke. I highly recommend that triple feature. But if you can get through one of those, I think you ever want to watch another movie.
Montgomery
Understand the artifacts. Like,
has
they
not
train you
commented
twice
on the
and then
specific motion.